Here are 50 most commonly asked DevOps interview questions in Salesforce interviews, along with detailed and informative answers. 1. What is DevOps and how does it apply to Salesforce? Answer: DevOps is a set of practices that aims to shorten the system's development lifecycle and provide continuous delivery with high software quality. In Salesforce, DevOps applies to automating deployment processes, continuous integration (CI), continuous delivery (CD), and ensuring quality and compliance in Salesforce projects. It helps manage Salesforce metadata, automate unit tests, deploy changes across environments, and maintain version control, thus improving collaboration, efficiency, and productivity. The DevOps approach in Salesforce ensures that changes can be rapidly deployed, while maintaining stability, reliability, and compliance with organizational policies. 2. How do you implement continuous integration (CI) in a Salesforce environment? Answer: implementing CI in a Salesforce environment involves several steps. A. Setting up a version control system, for example, Git, to manage source code and metadata. B. Using Salesforce DX for modular development and Scratch orgs for isolated testing. C. Configuring a CI tool, for example, Jenkins, Circle CI, to automate the build process. D. Writing automated tests, for example, Apex tests, to validate code changes. E. Integrating the CI tool with the version control system to trigger builds on code commits. F. Monitoring build results and fixing issues promptly to maintain code quality. 3. What are the benefits of using Salesforce DX in a DevOps process? Answer: the benefits of using Salesforce DX in a DevOps process include: A. Modular development with Scratch orgs, allowing isolated and parallel development. B. Improved version control and collaboration through source-driven development. C. Simplified integration with CI or CD tools for automated testing and deployment. D. Enhanced developer experience with a powerful CLI and IDE plugins. E. Better management of change sets and metadata through unlocked packages. 4. Explain the concept of Scratch orgs and their role in Salesforce DevOps. Answer: Scratch orgs are temporary, disposable environments that can be quickly spun up to emulate a Salesforce production org. They are used in Salesforce DX for: A. Developing and testing new features in isolation from the production environment. B. Ensuring consistency and reliability by using predefined configurations. C. Facilitating automated testing and CI processes. D. Enhancing collaboration among developers by providing identical development environments. E. Allowing rapid iteration and feedback by easily creating and discarding orgs. 5. How do you handle environment management in Salesforce DevOps? Answer: handling environment management in Salesforce DevOps involves: A. Defining a clear environment strategy, for example, development, QA, staging, production. B. Automating the setup and teardown of environments using tools like Salesforce DX. C. Managing environment-specific configurations using custom settings and custom metadata. D. Implementing data masking and sandbox templates to protect sensitive data. E. Using environment management tools, for example, Copato, Gersit, for efficient deployment and monitoring. 6. What is continuous delivery (CD) and how do you implement it in Salesforce? Answer: continuous delivery (CD) is the practice of automating the entire software release process to enable reliable and frequent releases to production. In Salesforce, CD can be implemented by: A. Integrating CI tools with deployment tools, for example, Salesforce CLI, Jenkins. B. Automating the deployment process using scripts and metadata API. C. Performing automated tests to validate deployments. D. Using version control to manage deployment artifacts. E. Ensuring rollback mechanisms are in place to handle deployment failures. 7. Describe the role of version control in Salesforce DevOps. Answer: version control is essential in Salesforce DevOps for tracking changes to source code and metadata, enabling collaboration among developers through branching and merging. It facilitates code reviews, ensuring code quality, and provides a historical record of changes for audit and compliance purposes. Integrating version control with CI or CD tools automates build and deployment processes, ensuring consistency and reliability. Version control helps manage complex development workflows, supports multiple development streams, and ensures that changes are properly documented and traceable. 8. What are some common tools used in Salesforce DevOps, and what are their purposes? Answer: common tools used in Salesforce DevOps include A. Salesforce DX for modular development, source control, and Scratch org management. B. Jenkins for CI or CD automation, building, and deploying code. C. Git for version control and managing code repositories. D. Copado for release management, continuous delivery, and environment management. E. Gersit for deployment, automation, monitoring, and backup. 9. How do you ensure code quality and security in Salesforce DevOps? Answer: ensuring code quality and security in Salesforce DevOps involves several practices. Implementing code reviews and static code analysis using tools like PMD helps identify potential issues early. Writing comprehensive unit tests and automated test suites ensures that code changes do not introduce new bugs or regressions. Regular security audits and vulnerability assessments help identify and address security risks. Using Salesforce Shield for enhanced security features like event monitoring and encryption provides additional protection. Following best practices for secure coding and data handling ensures that the codebase remains robust and secure. 10. How do you manage dependencies in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer: managing dependencies in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves using unlocked packages to modularize and manage dependencies. Defining clear versioning and dependency rules in the SFDX project JSON file helps maintain consistency. Dependency management tools like NPM are used for JavaScript libraries in Lightning Web Components LWC, ensuring consistent environments through Scratch org configurations, and automating the installation and updating of dependencies in CI or CD pipelines ensures that all dependencies are properly managed and up to date. 11. Explain the concept of automated testing in Salesforce and its importance in DevOps. Answer: automated testing in Salesforce involves writing and executing tests to validate code and configurations automatically. It is crucial in DevOps because it ensures that code changes do not introduce new bugs or regressions, enabling continuous integration and delivery by providing quick feedback. Automated testing improves code quality and reliability, reduces manual testing efforts, and facilitates better coverage and testing of complex scenarios. It is an integral part of the DevOps process, helping maintain high standards of quality and performance in Salesforce projects. 12. How do you implement test automation in Salesforce? Answer: implementing test automation in Salesforce involves A. Writing Apex unit tests to cover custom logic and triggers. B. Using Selenium or similar tools for UI testing of Lightning components. C. Integrating test automation with CI tools to run tests on code commits. D. Using test frameworks like Jest for testing Lightning Web Components LWC. E. Ensuring comprehensive test coverage and maintaining tests as part of the development process. 13. What are Salesforce DX projects and how do they fit into the DevOps lifecycle? Answer: Salesforce DX projects are a way to organize and manage source code and metadata in a modular and source-driven manner. They fit into the DevOps lifecycle by facilitating version control and collaboration through source-driven development. Salesforce DX projects enable the use of Scratch orgs for isolated and consistent development environments. Integrate seamlessly with CI or CD tools for automated testing and deployment, and support modular development through unlocked packages. This approach enhances overall development and deployment efficiency, ensuring that changes are managed effectively and delivered reliably. 14. Describe the process of setting up a CI or CD pipeline for Salesforce. Answer: setting up a CI or CD pipeline for Salesforce involves several key steps like A. Configuring a version control system, for example, Git, to manage source code and metadata. B. Setting up a CI tool, for example, Jenkins, Circle CI, to automate the build process. C. Creating a Salesforce DX project and defining build scripts. D. Writing automated tests to validate code changes. E. Configuring the CI tool to trigger builds on code commits and run tests. F. Automating the deployment process to various environments, for example, sandbox, production. 15. How do you handle rollback and recovery in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: handling rollback and recovery in a Salesforce DevOps process involves implementing version control to track and revert changes, using automated backups and recovery tools to restore data and metadata, defining rollback procedures as part of deployment scripts, performing regular snapshots of environments for quick recovery, and testing rollback procedures to ensure they work as expected. These practices ensure that any issues encountered during deployments can be quickly and effectively addressed, minimizing downtime and disruption. 16. Explain the role of Metadata API in Salesforce DevOps. Answer: the Metadata API in Salesforce DevOps is used for retrieving and deploying metadata components between Salesforce orgs, automating the deployment process through scripts and CI or CD tools, managing changes and configurations as part of the DevOps pipeline, facilitating version control by extracting metadata into source code repositories, and enabling consistent and reliable deployment of customizations and configurations. The Metadata API plays a crucial role in automating and streamlining the deployment process, ensuring that changes are deployed accurately and efficiently. 17. What are some challenges you might face when implementing DevOps in Salesforce? Answer: challenges in implementing DevOps in Salesforce include managing complex dependencies and configurations across multiple environments, ensuring data integrity and security during automated deployments, handling large volumes of metadata and customizations, integrating with third-party tools and systems, and balancing the needs for speed and quality in continuous delivery. Addressing these challenges requires careful planning, robust automation tools, and a thorough understanding of Salesforce best practices. 18. How do you ensure compliance and governance in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: ensuring compliance and governance in a Salesforce DevOps process involves implementing security controls and policies, such as data encryption and access controls, using Salesforce Shield for advanced compliance features like event monitoring, and field audit trails, conducting regular audits and assessments to identify and address compliance gaps, and maintaining thorough documentation and records of all changes and deployments. These practices help ensure that the DevOps process adheres to organizational and regulatory requirements, maintaining the integrity and security of the Salesforce environment. 19. What is the significance of automated deployments in Salesforce DevOps? Answer: automated deployments are crucial in Salesforce DevOps for several reasons. They reduce the risk of human error by ensuring that deployments are consistent and repeatable. Automation also speeds up the deployment process, allowing for more frequent and reliable releases. Additionally, automated deployments improve collaboration among teams by providing a standardized process for deploying changes, making it easier to track and manage deployments across different environments. Overall, automated deployments enhance the efficiency and reliability of the DevOps process. 20. How do you manage release cycles in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer: managing release cycles in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves defining a clear release strategy, such as time-based or feature-based releases, using version control to manage changes and track progress, automating build and deployment processes to ensure consistency, performing thorough testing and validation before each release, and maintaining detailed documentation of release notes and deployment procedures. Effective release management ensures that changes are delivered reliably and efficiently, minimizing disruption and maximizing the value of each release. 21. How do you integrate Salesforce with external systems in a DevOps process? Answer: integrating Salesforce with external systems in a DevOps process involves using APIs, middleware, and integration tools to connect Salesforce with other systems. This may include REST or SOAP APIs for direct integrations, middleware solutions like MuleSoft for more complex integrations, and tools like Heroku for deploying custom applications. Ensuring that integrations are automated and tested as part of the CI or CD pipeline is crucial for maintaining consistency and reliability. Proper error handling and logging mechanisms should also be in place to monitor and troubleshoot integration issues. 22. What are the best practices for managing Salesforce metadata in a DevOps environment? Answer: best practices for managing Salesforce metadata in a DevOps environment include: A. Using version control to track changes to metadata. B. Modularizing metadata using Salesforce DX and unlocked packages. C. Automating metadata retrieval and deployment using scripts and CI or CD tools. D. Ensuring metadata consistency across environments through automated tests. E. Regularly reviewing and cleaning up metadata to remove unused components. 23. How do you handle data migrations in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: handling data migrations in a Salesforce DevOps process involves several steps. First, define a clear data migration strategy including mapping, source, and target data fields. Use data migration tools like Data Loader, Talend, or Informatica to automate the migration process. Perform data validation and transformation to ensure data integrity and consistency. Automate data migration as part of the CI or CD pipeline, and thoroughly test the migration process in a sandbox environment before deploying to production. Document the migration process and maintain detailed records to ensure compliance and traceability. 24. What are some common pitfalls in Salesforce DevOps, and how can they be avoided? Answer: common pitfalls in Salesforce DevOps include lack of version control, insufficient testing, manual deployments, poor environment management, and inadequate collaboration. To avoid these pitfalls, implement robust version control practices, automate testing and deployments, use environment management tools to maintain consistency, and foster a culture of collaboration and communication among development and operations teams. Regularly review and refine DevOps processes to identify and address any issues or inefficiencies. 25. How do you monitor and measure the success of a Salesforce DevOps implementation? Answer: monitoring and measuring the success of a Salesforce DevOps implementation involves tracking key performance indicators (KPIs), such as deployment frequency, lead time for changes, mean time to recover (MTTR), and change failure rate. Use monitoring tools to track the health and performance of the Salesforce environment, and gather feedback from stakeholders to assess the impact of DevOps practices on overall productivity and quality. Regularly review and analyze these metrics to identify areas for improvement and make data-driven decisions to enhance the DevOps process. 26. Explain the concept of infrastructure as code ISC and its relevance to Salesforce DevOps. Answer: Infrastructure as code ISC is the practice of managing and provisioning infrastructure through code, enabling automated and consistent infrastructure deployment. In Salesforce DevOps, ISC can be applied using tools like Salesforce CLI and Salesforce DX to automate the creation and configuration of scratch orgs, sandboxes, and other environments. ISC ensures that infrastructure is versioned, consistent, and easily reproducible, reducing manual errors and improving the reliability of the deployment process. By treating infrastructure as code, teams can integrate it into their CI or CD pipelines, enabling continuous delivery and enhancing collaboration. 27. How do you manage Salesforce environments using Salesforce CLI? Answer: Managing Salesforce environments using Salesforce CLI involves several key commands and practices. Use the sfdxforce org create command to create scratch orgs for development and testing. The sfdxforce source push and sfdxforce source pull commands allow for syncing source code and metadata between the local repository and the scratch org. Use sfdxforce org delete to dispose of scratch orgs when they are no longer needed. Automate these commands as part of CI or CD pipelines to ensure consistent and efficient environment management. Salesforce CLI also provides commands for deploying to and retrieving metadata from non-scratch orgs, facilitating comprehensive environment management across the entire DevOps lifecycle. 28. Describe the process of setting up a release pipeline using Copado. Answer: Setting up a release pipeline using Copado involves several steps. First, define the pipeline stages, such as development, QA, staging, and production. Configure user stories and map them to pipeline stages, ensuring that each stage has appropriate validation gates, such as automated tests and code reviews. Use Copado's deployment tools to automate the deployment process and configure pipeline triggers to initiate deployments based on specific criteria, such as code commits or user story completion. Monitor pipeline progress and manage deployment errors using Copado's dashboards and reporting tools. Regularly review and refine the pipeline to ensure it meets organizational needs and best practices. 29. How do you ensure continuous monitoring and feedback in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: Ensuring continuous monitoring and feedback in a Salesforce DevOps process involves implementing monitoring tools and practices. Use tools like New Relic or Splunk to monitor the health and performance of the Salesforce environment. Tracking metrics such as response times, error rates, and system load. Integrate these tools with CI or CD pipelines to provide real-time feedback on deployments and changes. Conduct regular reviews and retrospectives to gather feedback from development and operations teams and use this feedback to improve processes and practices. Establish clear communication channels and feedback loops to ensure that issues are identified and addressed promptly, maintaining a high standard of quality and performance. 30. What is the role of automation in Salesforce DevOps, and what are some key areas to automate? Answer: Automation plays a crucial role in Salesforce DevOps by streamlining processes, reducing manual errors, and improving efficiency. Key areas to automate include: A. Code integration and builds using CI tools. B. Deployment processes using deployment tools and scripts. C. Testing using automated test suites for unit, integration, and UI tests. D. Environment setup and teardown using ISC and Salesforce CLI. E. Monitoring and alerting to ensure timely detection and resolution of issues. 31. How do you handle multi-cloud deployments in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer. Handling multi-cloud deployments in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves using tools and practices that support cross-cloud integration and management. Use APIs and middleware solutions like MuleSoft to connect Salesforce with other cloud services, ensuring seamless data flow and integration. Implement ISC tools to manage infrastructure across different cloud platforms, maintaining consistency and reliability. Automate deployment processes to multiple cloud environments using CI or CD pipelines. And ensure that security and compliance policies are consistently applied across all clouds. Regularly review and test multi-cloud deployments to identify and address any issues or inefficiencies. 32. How do you manage configuration changes across Salesforce environments? Answer. Managing configuration changes across Salesforce environments involves using tools and practices to ensure consistency and reliability. Define and document configuration settings for each environment. Using custom settings and custom metadata to manage environment-specific configurations. Automate the deployment of configuration changes using scripts and deployment tools. And integrate these changes into CI or CD pipelines to ensure consistency across environments. Use environment management tools like Copado or Gersit to track and manage configuration changes. And regularly review and validate configurations to ensure they meet organizational needs and best practices. 33. What are the best practices for implementing a Salesforce DevOps strategy? Answer. Best practices for implementing a Salesforce DevOps strategy include: A. Establishing clear communication and collaboration channels between development and operations teams. B. Implementing robust version control practices to track changes and enable collaboration. C. Automating build, test, and deployment processes to ensure consistency and reliability. D. Using CI or CD tools to streamline the development and deployment lifecycle. E. Continuously monitoring and reviewing DevOps processes to identify and address issues and inefficiencies. F. Ensuring compliance and governance through regular audits and documentation. 34. How do you ensure data security and compliance in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer. Ensuring data security and compliance in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves implementing security controls and practices to protect sensitive data. Use Salesforce Shield for advanced security features like event monitoring, field audit trails, and data encryption. Implement access controls and role-based permissions to restrict access to sensitive data. Conduct regular security audits and vulnerability assessments to identify and address potential risks. Automate security checks as part of the CI or CD pipeline to ensure that security and compliance policies are consistently applied. Maintain thorough documentation and records of all changes and deployments to ensure traceability and compliance with regulatory requirements. 35. How do you manage technical debt in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer. Managing technical debt in a Salesforce DevOps process involves several strategies. Regularly review and refactor code to improve quality and maintainability. Use static code analysis tools to identify and address potential issues early in the development process. Implement code reviews and peer reviews to ensure that best practices are followed and technical debt is minimized. Prioritize and track technical debt items as part of the development backlog and allocate time and resources to address them regularly. By proactively managing technical debt, teams can maintain a high standard of code quality and reduce the long-term impact of technical debt on the project. 36. How do you handle large-scale deployments in Salesforce? Answer. Handling large-scale deployments in Salesforce involves careful planning and execution. Break down the deployment into smaller, manageable chunks, and deploy changes incrementally. Use automated deployment tools and scripts to ensure consistency and reliability. Perform thorough testing and validation in a staging environment before deploying to production. Implement rollback mechanisms to quickly revert changes in case of issues. Monitor the deployment process closely and have a contingency plan in place to address any problems that arise. By following these practices, large-scale deployments can be managed effectively and with minimal disruption. 37. What is the importance of continuous learning and improvement in Salesforce DevOps? Answer: continuous learning and improvement are critical in Salesforce DevOps to keep up with evolving technologies and best practices. Regularly review and analyze DevOps processes to identify areas for improvement. Encourage team members to participate in training and certification programs to enhance their skills and knowledge. Foster a culture of continuous improvement by implementing regular retrospectives and feedback loops. Stay updated with the latest trends and developments in Salesforce and DevOps to ensure that processes and practices remain relevant and effective. By prioritizing continuous learning and improvement, teams can maintain a high standard of quality and efficiency in their DevOps processes. 38. How do you manage custom code and configurations in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: managing custom code and configurations in a Salesforce DevOps process involves using version control to track changes and enable collaboration. Modularize custom code and configurations using Salesforce DX and unlocked packages. Automate the deployment process to ensure consistency and reliability, and integrate automated tests to validate code changes. Use environment management tools to maintain consistent configurations across different environments, and regularly review and refactor code to improve quality and maintainability. By following these practices, custom code and configurations can be effectively managed throughout the DevOps lifecycle. 39. How do you handle change management in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer: handling change management in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves implementing processes and tools to manage and track changes. Use version control to track changes and enable collaboration. And implement change management tools like Jira to manage change requests and track progress. Automate the deployment process to ensure consistency and reliability, and integrate automated tests to validate changes. Perform thorough testing and validation in a staging environment before deploying changes to production, and maintain detailed documentation and records of all changes. By following these practices, change management can be effectively handled in a Salesforce DevOps environment. 40. What are some key considerations for scaling DevOps practices in Salesforce? Answer: key considerations for scaling DevOps practices in Salesforce include: A. Implementing robust version control practices to manage code and metadata. B. Automating build, test, and deployment processes to ensure consistency and reliability. C. Using environment management tools to maintain consistent configurations across different environments. D. Regularly reviewing and refining DevOps processes to identify and address inefficiencies. E. Ensuring compliance and governance through regular audits and documentation. F. Fostering a culture of continuous learning and improvement to keep up with evolving technologies and best practices. 41. How do you integrate Salesforce DevOps with agile development methodologies? Answer: integrating Salesforce DevOps with agile development methodologies involves aligning DevOps practices with agile principles. Use version control to manage code and enable collaboration, and implement CI or CD tools to automate build, test, and deployment processes. Use agile project management tools like Jira to manage sprints, user stories, and tasks. Perform regular retrospectives and feedback loops to continuously improve processes and practices. By aligning DevOps practices with agile methodologies, teams can enhance collaboration, efficiency, and productivity. 42. What is the role of testing in Salesforce DevOps, and how do you implement it effectively? Answer. Testing plays a crucial role in Salesforce DevOps by ensuring that code changes do not introduce new bugs or regressions. To implement testing effectively, write comprehensive unit tests to cover custom logic and triggers, and use tools like Selenium for UI testing of Lightning components. Integrate automated tests into the CI or CD pipeline to provide quick feedback on code changes. Perform thorough testing and validation in a staging environment before deploying to production, and regularly review and update test cases to ensure they remain relevant and effective. By prioritizing testing, teams can maintain a high standard of quality and reliability in their Salesforce projects. 43. How do you manage and monitor Salesforce APIs in a DevOps environment? Answer. Managing and monitoring Salesforce APIs in a DevOps environment involves several key practices. Use API management tools to secure and manage API access, and implement rate limiting and throttling to prevent abuse. Monitor API usage and performance using tools like New Relic or Splunk, and set up alerts to notify of any issues. Automate API testing as part of the CI or CD pipeline to ensure that APIs are functioning correctly. Regularly review and update API documentation to ensure it is accurate and up to date. By following these practices, teams can effectively manage and monitor Salesforce APIs. 44. What are some best practices for implementing CI or CD pipelines in Salesforce? Answer. Best practices for implementing CI or CD pipelines in Salesforce include: A. Using version control to manage source code and metadata. B. Automating build, test, and deployment processes using CI or CD tools. C. Writing comprehensive automated tests to validate code changes. D. Using Salesforce DX for modular development and Scratch org management. E. Monitoring and reviewing CI or CD pipeline performance to identify and address inefficiencies. F. Ensuring compliance and governance through regular audits and documentation. 45. How do you handle data privacy and protection in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer. Handling data privacy and protection in a Salesforce DevOps process involves implementing security controls and practices to protect sensitive data. Use Salesforce Shield for advanced security features like event monitoring, field audit trails, and data encryption. Implement access controls and role-based permissions to restrict access to sensitive data. Conduct regular security audits and vulnerability assessments to identify and address potential risks. Automate security checks as part of the CI or CD pipeline to ensure that security and compliance policies are consistently applied. Maintain thorough documentation and records of all changes and deployments to ensure traceability and compliance with regulatory requirements. 46. How do you manage and deploy Salesforce applications using Heroku? Answer. Managing and deploying Salesforce applications using Heroku involves several key practices. Use Heroku Connect to synchronize data between Salesforce and Heroku applications, ensuring real-time data consistency. Deploy applications to Heroku using Git and the Heroku CLI, automating the deployment process using CI or CD tools. Use Heroku add-ons to extend application functionality and manage resources, and monitor application performance using Heroku's monitoring tools. Integrate Heroku applications with Salesforce using APIs and middleware solutions like MuleSoft, and ensure that security and compliance policies are consistently applied across both platforms. 47. How do you handle custom metadata and settings in Salesforce DevOps? Answer. Handling custom metadata and settings in Salesforce DevOps Involves using Salesforce DX and the Metadata API to manage and deploy custom settings and metadata. Define custom settings and metadata in the source code repository and automate the deployment process using CI or CD tools. Use environment management tools to maintain consistent configurations across different environments. And perform thorough testing and validation to ensure that custom settings and metadata are correctly deployed. Regularly review and update custom settings and metadata to ensure they meet organizational needs and best practices. 48. What are some common integration patterns in Salesforce DevOps, and how do you implement them? Answer: common integration patterns in Salesforce DevOps include A. API integration, using REST or SOAP APIs to connect Salesforce with external systems. B. Middleware integration, using middleware solutions like MuleSoft to handle complex integrations and data transformations. C. Event-driven integration, using platform events to trigger actions and workflows in response to specific events. D. Data synchronization, using tools like Heroku Connect to synchronize data between Salesforce and external systems. E. Batch integration, using batch processing to handle large volumes of data integration tasks. 49. How do you ensure high availability and disaster recovery in a Salesforce DevOps environment? Answer: ensuring high availability and disaster recovery in a Salesforce DevOps environment involves several key practices. Implement redundancy and failover mechanisms to ensure that services remain available in the event of a failure. Use data backup and recovery tools to regularly back up data and metadata, and test recovery procedures to ensure they work as expected. Automate monitoring and alerting to detect and respond to issues promptly. And maintain thorough documentation and records of all changes and deployments. By following these practices, teams can ensure that their Salesforce environment remains highly available and resilient to disasters. 50. How do you manage and deploy Lightning Web Components (LWC) in a Salesforce DevOps process? Answer: managing and deploying Lightning Web Components (LWC) in a Salesforce DevOps process involves using Salesforce DX and the Metadata API to manage LWC source code and metadata. Use version control to track changes and enable collaboration, and automate the deployment process using CI or CD tools. Write comprehensive automated tests to validate LWC functionality. And perform thorough testing and validation in a staging environment before deploying to production. Regularly review and update LWC code to ensure it meets organizational needs and best practices. By following these practices, LWC can be effectively managed and deployed throughout the DevOps lifecycle. The above 50 questions and answers provide an extensive overview of the key aspects of Salesforce DevOps, covering topics such as CI or CD implementation, version control, environment management, testing strategies, data security, integration patterns, and best practices for managing custom code and metadata. They highlight the importance of automation, continuous improvement, and compliance in a Salesforce DevOps environment. These questions are designed to help candidates demonstrate their expertise in streamlining development processes, ensuring high-quality deployments, and maintaining robust and secure Salesforce applications. For more exciting tips, tricks, and more importantly, for valuable insights of interviews, please share, like, and subscribe to my channel. It has a lot of valuable information about various insights of interviews. It has a wide range of real-world portfolio projects of various technologies for interviews, and it has wide range of most asked interview questions and answers of various technologies like data science, SAP, AWS, DevOps, and full-stack web development, and more that will be useful during interviews. It has a wide range of most asked interview questions and answers and real-world portfolio projects of various technologies for freshers. For 2 to 3 years, experienced candidates, and for 5 or above years, experienced candidates to test their skills by knowing most asked interview questions and make themselves ready for interviews.